So is there any kind of like, how do you afford to be a gymnast? Is anybody, are you getting like sponsorships like UFC fighters and stuff? Or is there any vitamin supplement sponsorships or anything like that for a young aspiring gymnast?
I'm sure it's better now, but back when I did it, you basically got nothing. It was pretty much just
self-grind.
The gym fund it if they had the resources, and then really your best bet was to get on the Olympic team and medal, and that was your only way to get really good sponsorships and actually survive off of it. Now that they actually can allow college athletes to get paid, I think that's changed a lot of things, especially for gymnasts. But back in the day, I mean, it was not like a career path that was really
it was like drummers. Terrible career choice.
Yeah, I know.
How much does a gym membership cost, Reed?
Oh, I don't know. It's expensive though. I mean, because you got to pay to actually train. You have to pay for like all of the travel when you're competing, a good amount. The uniforms, the leotards and stuff, you know.
Yeah,
that's not cheap either.
Gotta have the leotards.
At least it's not really hard on your body either, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really good for you. I love the like stereotype of like the dude with 3 kids just shows up like, oh, sorry I'm late. My kids are screaming.
I was in the carpool lane when Ben texted me this morning. He was like, "You ready to do this thing?" And the carpool lane was out into like the main road, and I was like, "I'm gonna miss this podcast. I can just go right now."
Thanks for doing it so early.
Yeah. Actually, I think this is a great time to do a podcast when everybody's like had their first cup of coffee. You let Nate roll in 5 minutes late, and everybody's ready to go.
Real cool, dude.
Cheers. I got mine.
Yeah,
too.
dude, I got one too. Yeah.
There we go.
Hey.
Bunch of coffee drinkers.
Jordan, where's yours?
I just have water. I've had like
make this
9
guy
cups
some
of
coffee.
And it's a bottle of water. It's not even like a glass. What? Just
Yeah,
so
man.
bad for the environment.
No, I'm a pro single use plastics guy on this side over here.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's good. Jordan likes to walk out in the street and just build a pile.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I might dump this out halfway empty and just open another one.
Nice.
Man, I hate to be this guy, but have you all seen that guy online? That's it's apparently he's figured out how to recycle the plastic bottles into fuel, and no one can really tell it. And no one can tell if he's legit.
He's not going to live very long.
Yeah, that's what
I
everyone's
was going to say. That guy's going to get taken out.
That's what everyone posts on his page. They're like, "This guy is not suicidal." Everybody like, any government agents.
He's a
every day he's like checks in. I feel fine today. Just let everyone know I'm not sick. I don't have a cough.
They're like,
that's
like
like
this man.
Yeah, it's the same thing with like, you hear for like 10 minutes like someone's cured cancer and they're like, where'd that dude go?
Yeah.
They're just like
gone.
Wasn't there the famous story is that some guy made a boat engine that runs on water?
That's insane.
Oh, Jordan, this was a long time ago, right?
Yeah. He made this turbine that basically like it uses electricity to start, but then it uses the speed of the water to keep it's like a wind turbine basically. And all of a sudden he like is dead and that technology is gone.
They're like his engine took him out too far, dude. It was too strong of an engine. He never came back.
Yeah. Well, the Earth's flat, so he just went right off the edge. It was too fast.
That's why we're all here, because we're non-contributors. They're not worried. We're never going to get taken out.
Yeah, I think this podcast is going to go into eternity.
Yeah.
I don't know. Emo Night might take us out after the last episode.
Uh-oh. You guys better leave Emo Night alone.
I know.
What about, can we delve into When We Were Young festival?
Let's get it all.
Let's get it.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Jordan, do you just like, when we do this podcast, do you just put like tape over my side so you don't have to pretend like I do all these things that you're shitting
I
on?
look up what are the things that Nate has done in the last year. I have a list of them, and I'm just going to go one by one.
Well, wait, Tim also did it too, though. So, I mean, you guys did it.
Actually, I got a story for that, but go ahead.
To be honest, we were surprised at how they got every single band on and off that stage.
Everyone was.
Here's the one thing I'll say about it. For people in our circle, it's a big hangout because everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, it was fun.
But like
Nate was there. It was fun.
The marketing of it and all that stuff's that's what I have a problem with.
Let's talk about that. What about the marketing?
I am anti-fun.
I like that, man. You're like me, dude. You got a curmudgeon streak to you. Yeah.
Oh, big time.
Most of the stuff people are talking about when they assign a genre to it isn't even the right genre.
Yeah.
When they call stuff emo that
Like
isn't.
I love My Chem. They're not an emo band. They would even say that they're a fucking rock and roll band. They're like an arena rock.
Yeah.
But doesn't the name When You Were Young get around that a little bit versus just
That's what I'm
calling
saying.
it-
Is like that one is like
they don't claim the emo thing.
Right. That one felt okay to me. It was more the poster with like the pink and the all that. That was
So it's a design issue, not necessarily
Yeah.
a concept issue.
it's a corn. It's a
colors.
It's a corn issue.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Corn with a C.
Oh my god. God,
Because
Jordan.
once I find you corny, you're on the cob forever.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The cow.
So anyway, I'm playing it. I'm playing it in
I
October.
mean, I hope they do it again and invite us again, honestly.
Nate, you're like the mayor of.
I'm like the mayor of
Yo, Nate's like the mayor of when we were young.
Cool. Yo, it's a very, very well done fest. And I think
I'm
to
sure
Tim's
it
point,
is.
we all were like skeptical of it because it's crazy, right? It's like,
You were like, how are they going to pull this
yeah,
off?
there's no way. And
Also in Vegas, like the hardest place to like do any.
well, the first day got canceled because of the wind. And I remember waking up that morning and they were like, texts were going around like, rumor is they're going to cancel the first day.
Yeah.
And of course, because everyone thought the fest was fake anyway, like Fire Fest, like no way this is going to happen. Everyone was like, we fucking knew it. Like this is good. Dude. And from my window of the hotel, oh my God, I could see the line. It was like the line to get into the festival was just like so long, right? And you could see even from the window, the wind was absolutely crazy. Like you could tell it was gnarly. So, but I could see in real time when they canceled it and they were telling people like in the line. And I just sat there and watched like the devastation.
Dude, you want to talk about emo? It got real emo real fast.
Dude, it seriously, we passed people that I was like, you couldn't like make this up. Just dude in full like makeup and like ready to rip, just sitting on the curb like crying. And it was
so
It
true.
was tough.
The crazy thing is too is people spent so much money to get there, and Vegas is so expensive.
Yes, and hot.
Brutal, dude.
I had a friend fly in for one day because he's like, dude, I want to hang. I want to come to the show. He flew in, it got canceled, and then he just left. But
That's so
but
great because I had the same exact experience, Nate. We just that first day looked around and it was like watching this movie of sad emo kids, like the Charlie Brown theme, or like where he's sad. Like it might as well have been playing in the background all day long. And
yeah,
people
100%.
were bummed.
But I will
we
say-
were bummed too.
Yeah, for sure. And I was glad they canceled though because the wind was absolutely crazy. And then the next day when we did play, it was beautiful weather. It was like 60s. It was still so fucking windy that it still felt a little sketchy. Like I was like, this is not even near how the first day was, and this is still kind of crazy. But
Yeah.
Anyway.
The first day was like moving the backdrops.
oh yeah, and the speakers. If they didn't lower the speakers, dude, it was like blowing everything. It was wild.
Oh wow.
I wonder like how much they lost on that day, because the guarantees for some of those bands would just be like absolutely.
I think because it was an active. Well,
Yeah, they got
paid
insurance.
50%.
Yeah, they got
Yeah.
Insurance and 50%. Yeah, because we didn't play.
Wait,
I had a
weren't
great day.
Weren't sets like super short? Weren't like
I got paid to play craps and drink wine all day.
No, I went and hung with Chris Bayside. We went and like chilled all day, and it was like the most fun. We like hit all the places. I'm like, dude, this rules.
I hope they do it again. They need to invite us again. man.
they'll do it again.
We're doing it again.
You guys are going again?
We're doing it this year in October.
Are you guys doing it as Amberland?
Yeah, so they swap years. That, like, truthfully, not to be like, oh, you better call someone, but y'all should have been on it this year because you swap years.
We better call somebody.
Is what they told us. Yeah, dude, I'm gonna get on the phone. I'm gonna get you
Let's
there.
go, Nate. You run all
Wait.
this stuff.
Dude, you're the mayor, dude.
This is funny that we started talking about this because, and I remember I think I was texting all three of you when we were young. Again, the weather was like beautiful. We played, and then since it was over, and I think we were like playing shows the next week, so we were like kind of day off the next day, and y'all were playing. Manchester was playing, and it was like evening. And I remember I was hanging with Chris, and Chris was like, "Yo, I got this joint. Do you want to smoke it?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And so we're sitting on the side. And I was just like, the weather was so good. And I ripped a little bit, and we're watching the set, and the sun was setting, and y'all blew my mind. I mean, I've seen y'all.
Y'all sucked.
No,
so
y'all
bad.
I've seen y'all a few times, and it was always killer. dude, this was like, obviously I'm sure the weed helped a little bit, but the weather and watching with Chris, and I watched y'all side stage, and dude, I was like,
This sounds familiar to me, actually. I think you did.
I've told you this.
I remember this. No, you live like were texting us the whole time.
I was texting them, losing it, because I was like, dude, I felt like it felt important. I was like watching this set, and I was like, what am I watching? I felt like I was like in a very specific era, but it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel anything other than just like, this is music and rock and roll and how everything should feel. But it was like the coolest thing. And I tell this story too, because I think after y'all was like Alkaline Trio or something, and if you remember, the phone service was unbelievably bad, like almost scary. Like I couldn't get a hold of anyone. And I was supposed to hang out with Zach Farrow, who Paramore was headlining. And he was like, dude, come chill beside stage. And I was so into y'all set. And then I got so into Alkaline Trio set, I just ghosted everyone.
Dude, he must have had the good stuff for you.
Yeah.
Dude, I was like, and then I like heard the music. I was like, oh, Paramore started. And I was like, what? Where am I? But no, anyway,
too late to move.
Dude, y'all set, man. I went back. I actually text Sang, who used to work with y'all, and I was like, hey, can you find out that set list? Because I went and made like a Spotify playlist of that set list, because I was like trying to relive that night. I was like, dude.
Now every night when you rip a joint, you just put.
You can never come see us again then, because I don't want anything less.
That's
than
it.
That.
Yeah, that's
it.
It
is funny to me that that our experience on stage can be. I don't actually remember anything about playing that show or that set really, but it's just amazing to me that sometimes what we're doing up there, like you don't realize the impact it could be having. And I need to remind myself sometimes when we're playing shows that it's like, this might be somebody's like best experience of you, or this might be their first experience of you, or what have you. Like
100%.
Especially for like drummers, I guess we have to have a good attitude to really,
because you affect the whole show.
Yeah.
Oh, there's nothing worse than seeing like if the whole band looks like they're having fun and the drummer, like you can tell don't want to be there.
I don't want to name names, but
Let's go.
Do you find yourself being overly critical after a show?
Like of yourself?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I try not to have any expectations for myself whatsoever. Now, I mean, sometimes, but I've also started to get to this point where like we used to spend so much time like digging into what we did wrong immediately after the show, and it was like almost where we weren't enjoying anything because you're like coach mentality so often that it's like sometimes you need to be like chill out on the pointers and all of that stuff with each other and just be like, did we have a good flow? Did we have a good attitude? Like, sometimes that stuff's better than
and then if you focus on what you did wrong after the show too much, I would get in my head about it, and when that part of the set would come up the next show, I would like be so anticipating it, and it maybe not screw it up, but it still wouldn't feel good. And then and then 3 or 4 shows in, you're like, okay, now it's 2 weeks in and I'm still doing this, and then all of a sudden you're like, I've dreaded this 15 seconds 100. Of tour for a month or whatever.
Ben, you know this, the end of that song, Shake It Out, that we have, it has like a really weird turnaround, the way.
Super weird.
Big breakdown. And it's one of these things, like you just have to play the song with the band a bunch of times before I think you ever really like clicks in your head the way that it's turning around. And I played it like a million times, totally fine. And then all of a sudden I started thinking about it and like that section, and exactly what you were just talking about, Jordan, was like, oh God, here it comes. And then like, sure enough, like 2 or 3 shows in a row, I just biffed it on this section where I'm like, I don't know where I am.
Yeah,
like,
we had Copeland had the song we would end with has an insane count at the end where it's like, a fill out, and then it's like a 12 count, and then there's a 5 count of playing, and then there's a 12 count of break, and then 5 count of playing, and we did it the same every night. But the last one was like on the like halfway between the 2 and the 3 of the last 5 or 12 count or whatever. I would do this kind of weird triplet fill into the big ending, and the first like rehearsal when I learned it and all that kind of stuff, I could do it. I could probably sit at a kit right now and play it literally perfectly. There was something about the pressure of needing to nail it exactly in the moment, and this is the big finish of the set and the whole thing. there's maybe 2 shows of my 5 years of playing in that band where I played that fill without hitting a rim or dropping a stick. There was always something happen, or I would miss a cymbal, or I would, I would be like, my brain would sometimes, I was supposed to do it on the rack tom, and I would just go to the floor without even thinking, like just silly things where you're just like, why did my arms do that? I didn't even ask my body to do that. I just did it. And I could never do it correctly. And it's because the first show I ever played with them, we played in Nashville. It was sold out at freaking the Cannery Ballroom or whatever. First show I ever played with. And I forgot to come back in at all. And that was like, and I was like, and the rest of the band's like ring. And I'm just like sitting there like, where are we in the song? And I was like, that's the first show I ever played with them. And that set the tone for my entire career in that band, was that one moment. And I just would think about it every night, like, don't miss the fill, you idiot. Like,
yeah, it's funny how that works. And I think what you said, Tim, is funny. You've played something so many times, and then for whatever reason, you just are like, I forget, or like you just can't do it. And then that it's weird how that works. Your brain is like, tricks you. And you're like, I know how to play this, but when you overthink it, you're like, I can't do it.
But it's almost, if you're not careful, that overthinking can switch and become the norm, and then you can't play it normally anymore. It like becomes just the way you know it. Like,
well, anytime I've ever biffed live is because I was thinking about it. It's like, it's like seriously, all the times I like walk off stage and
you were just like wheels turning. You're like,
for sure. There's a couple of songs we have too that are just so like taxing, I guess. Like Bedhead is one of these songs where it's just like, it's like 16th notes on the hats the entire time. You're just every limb's moving the entire time.
Yeah.
And I just have to go, I'm shutting my brain off on this one. The click comes on and I just go like, I don't know if there's a button that says autopilot. I'm just like, boop, let's go. And I just shut my brain off and go on the roller coaster.
I mean, the most enjoyable times of tour are like the last week where I know all the songs inside and out. And
you're just like,
I don't even think I just do it. I'm not even present in the moment. That's when I have the most fun, because I'm sitting there like, I'm playing a show and the songs are happening and I'm thinking about the presidential election, or I'm not even in the moment. Like, I'm thinking about other things.
That's not stressful.
Yeah, but I'm like, it's like
just start sucking instantly.
Like, talk about emo.
But that's how so with Say Anything, I mean, there's a lot of technically like just difficult songs.
Yeah, sure.
And there's a lot going on, and I would just put so much reps in and practice nonstop at home or rehearsal so that I could actually, during the show, not think about it, let muscle memory take over the best it could, because otherwise, as soon as I would think about any part, I would immediately second guess everything and mess up, like you guys have experienced. So it's tricky.
Yeah.
100. It is weird.
Well, those songs are very involved.
I don't know how you remembered a quarter of that stuff.
Yeah, some of the stuff is crazy.
Yeah, muscle memory. I would practice so many hours every day just to lock in those parts the best I could.
The best is with that kind of stuff, when you practice at home and you learn all that shit, and then you get to rehearsal with the rest of the band. They're like, all right, this one we're gonna cut out this section and add 2 more parts, and we're actually gonna play at half speed. And you're like,
that has happened.
I almost want to keep rolling on Jordan's thing and like, what is the worst mistake, you guys? What is the worst biff of your careers?
Oh man,
I got more than one, I'll tell you that much.
Let's go, Benny. Fire us off with a good one. Come on.
I like how Tim is like running this podcast. He's more prepared than we are. He's got like 6 questions, and we're like, oh, what do you guys want to talk about?
I got a note sheet down here.
No, I have a few, but there's like one that sticks out in my head forever.
You start, Nate.
Okay, cool. All right, I'll start. So actually, it was Nashville. So it's funny you mentioned Nashville. And for years, we were like, Nashville's cursed. We would play. We've had just bad shows there in general.
Same.
But there's this one, and it was a while ago. And I remember it was like kind of the start of the tour, so things weren't smooth anyway. Kind of felt rough. This was probably like 2008 or something too. And so I remember it was like a big show for us though. I think we were headlining. Maybe sold out, whatever. But the show before, I had a serious hangover, and I was like, my neck was so stiff, and I was like, oh man, like, so before the show, I was like, I should take Advil because I'm super sore, so I'll take it. And without thinking about it, I hadn't eaten anything. I'd like not eaten that whole afternoon. I was like, I'll just take Advil, it'll be fine. So I'm on stage, and as I'm playing, I'm like, again, the show was kind of rough anyway. I couldn't hear well, and this chick right before the show, she was like, hey, I'm going to shoot your set I'm going to like do photos the whole show. Is that fine? And we're like, yeah, whatever. It's no worries. So the show starts and she's wandering around on stage with zero care. She's like this. Like we always were like, she's walking up. She's standing like this, just like, yo, look cool. And then she'd be like, snap. And then just stand there and kind of wander. And we were all like, what is going on? Just like so much.
I love
and
it.
So, I had like sticks. I didn't have like stick holders, but I had like sticks. You know how you put sticks around in case you drop one, like back in the day.
Accessible sticks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all at once, show's kind of rough anyway. And I'm like, oh my God, this is chaos. So start to feel a little nauseous. I'm like, this is weird. And then she's wandering around and she gets on my riser and I feel her bump me. I'm like,
get out of here.
Oh my
so
God.
I was just like, what? Dude, she was
in the
like
show
climbing
now.
on stuff and just yeah. So I was like, this is crazy. It was all, I was like looking around like, does anyone else see this? And so I'm playing and I go into a song and my snare was not, the stand wasn't tight all the way. So in the middle of a song, it drops all the way down like this, like not falls over, but you know what I mean? Like the thing that keeps it from up there goes all the way down. So I'm playing, trying to like hit down and I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So we get to the part where I stop, right? I'm like, okay, I stop. So I put my sticks on my snare. You know how you do that? And I'm trying to like reach down to lift it back up. And as I'm doing this, I realize, oh, this is not the time I stop. It's still in the chorus. Everyone's playing. No one. And then I go like this and I look up and our guitar player's looking at me like this. And then I freaked out because I was like, oh, so I go like this to do it faster. I throw my sticks like, because I was like, oh, I got the snare up, chuck my sticks. I go to grab new sticks, realize the photographer knocked them all down.
She's playing. She has the sticks in her hands.
So I have no sticks and my snare's still on the ground and they're still playing the chorus. And I just went like this.
Oh no.
I had no
hands up.
I'm not kidding. We stopped the song. There was nothing I could do. I had no sticks. So then we get back into the set.
Full song
get
stop.
back into the set.
Ooh.
I'm actually nauseous from the Advil. I start puking on my snare drum. And I kept playing. I was just hitting my snare and it was flying.
You're splatting your puke on the snare?
Dude, all one show. I'll never forget it. We walked off stage and I was like, that, dude. Yeah. So anyway.
You're like, was I cursed on that one? What happened?
That's how you win, dude. I can't stop that. That's insane.
My worst one, it wasn't really my fault, but it was a similar equipment issue. Is that we were playing at the Glass House in Pomona, and that drum riser,
the corner,
is pretty bouncy. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that was my first time I had ever played on that riser, and I was playing, and I realized like I don't use like cymbal toppers or anything else. I don't hit hard enough to warrant that. But I'm looking up, and my overhead mic stands are like kind of swinging out, and I actually have GoPro footage of it. The whole thing is just doing because the riser's so bouncy.
Oh, man.
My cymbals start swinging out. My rack tom is turning, and I'm playing, trying to get the bass player's attention. Like, yo, Bobby! I'm like literally screaming his name, and he's just flipping, looking forward. Nobody's paying attention. Everything is just sort of turning. The kick drum is turning. And I had to stop in the middle of the song and just be like, sorry, we got to start over. And I had to like put everything back. I have video of it. It's awful. But literally I was like, oh, there goes the overhead. And it's just swinging out. And then I look at then my ride's like swinging out. Like,
that's a nightmare vibes for sure. I feel like I've had dreams where you wake up and like, oh,
can't reach everything. Well, I'll jump in, and it's kind of in line with Nate's puking story. It was basically one of the first Manchester shows ever, and we flew over to England, and it was just one of those things. Wasn't feeling great from all that travel and didn't eat much, same kind of thing. And I think I ended up having like a bowl of tomato soup, and we go into this, like, it's one of these hot box 500, probably 350 capacity rooms where it's just like
prime temp.
Yeah, it's just body-driven temperatures from too many people shoved into this tiny room, It just felt like a humid sauna. And so we're playing this song, End of the World. Full set, I'm already feeling like really weird, but there's this point at the end of this song where we just kind of go ape shit, really start hitting really hard. I'm like hitting these down hits really hard, and all of a sudden I just feel it welling up. I'm like, this is about to happen right now. And mid song, and I just start barfing all over my hi-hats, but I'm same thing, still playing.
You gotta play it just
yeah, but it's also red tomato soup.
Oh, it is.
So.
It's like this pinkish hue, and so every time that I would projectile vomit, my volume in playing would dip like a lot. Sure. And right when that would happen, Andy would hear that, and you turn around, and go, "Come on, man, play hard!" And he turn back around, and right as he turns back around, the next wave of vomit would come. And I just remember looking up, and Jay, our bass player at the time, is wide-eyed, just staring at me like, what is going on?
That's quite the cleanup job after.
Yeah,
it was terrible, but it was one of those things where it was like, welcome to the game,
rock
welcome
and roll, baby.
You're gonna have one of those nights somewhere 100%. Along the line, and no one gets to skip out.
I was actually gonna ask about that, Tim, because I know obviously you weren't the original drummer. What got you linked up with the Manchester Orchestra crew in the first place?
I knew Andy since he was a young dude. I had a band in Florida, this band Architect, and we would play shows with his band way back in the day. And it was kind of funny. Even back then, we were bumping into you guys, Nate. We were bumping into like the Amberlin crew, the Under Oath dudes, anybody sort of like Florida based.
Yeah.
But you know how the band things go. Like, guys, you make these relationships. And honestly, anybody listening, like, so much of getting to play with a band that you enjoy is keeping up good relationships with people, and just relationships in general. Like, not every person you meet is going to be the person for you right then, but 6 years from now, they could be a pivotal key person. And so that was kind of the thing. Like,
bands are just personality management projects.
Yeah. There are lots of, and they're complex makeups of different personality types, and so Andy was, man, I met him, he was probably 17. I mean, he was so young, but we made a connection back then. And then when Jeremiah was like making his exit out of the band, it just made sense to reconnect with like old flames, so to speak.
That's really cool. Yeah, relationships are important. I mean, that's the only reason I ended up playing for Say Anything. I was in a band that opened for them. That's how I knew those guys.
100%.
And then when their drummer left,
they see you play, and they log something in the database that goes, hey, one
and
day
you're not an asshole.
That's a big component.
Truthfully, it's like we were just talking about that. Like, there's a lot of good musicians, a lot of drummers, but when you think about touring and living life with people, like, one of the biggest parts is being home, is like enjoying that time on stage for an hour and a half, 2 hours max. Fine, but then when you got the rest, you know what I mean, the rest of your life to be with this person.
But isn't that it gets chiseled into you, I think, the humility, right? Like when I was really young, I wish I could say I did it better. I was very, thirsty, like very not in tune with, the room, and more in tune with what I was hoping was going to happen, and me and Ben were kind of talking about this on our podcast that he came on and did with the band. But it's like, as you get older and more seasoned, you do relax a lot more. And I feel like, especially for the drummers, it's enabled us to enjoy doing this now without feeling like, what's this doing for my career? And like, where's my trajectory and all of this stuff that you're thinking about when you're in your, I don't know why you're thinking about that.
I think you also learn, like, you're playing in the same band for so long, when you want to step out and do something else on the side, or start a side project band or whatever, now know, like, as soon as you have a rehearsal with somebody and you're like, I can't, really quickly, like, I can't be in a band with this person. Like, so, or on the opposite side of that, you're like, I want to play music with, like, you kind of know, like,
for sure,
yourself, what works and what doesn't. And like, you're more honest with yourself. Whereas when you're young, you're like, I'm going to make this work no matter what. And that's how people get in trouble too. It's like,
I don't know how to make new relationships anymore. Do you guys? Like, how do you do that now? How do you go find like new musicians and like play with them? I have no idea.
It's harder when you get older.
But I think it's harder because you know what you want to do and who you are. Yeah, and so it's less like you're like, you meet. That's why if you do meet like somebody at a bar or whatever, you're hanging out and you're like, I am on the same wavelength of this person. It's like, I can't like let that, you don't want to let that go. You like
it's like dating
or whatever.
other musicians.
Yeah,
Well,
totally.
part of it is I have plenty of friends. Do I really need all that many?
Dude,
more?
I was just about to say, we have like between band dudes, think about how like you've shared life with people like from 20 years ago. And it's not that I talk to them all the time, but it's hilarious. I'm like, I have like the deepest, longest relationship with so many homies. Like when you play a fest and you're like, hey, like you have so many friends. So it's like,
Yeah, the
dude.
card's full. I don't got any room for anybody else. Yeah. Now it is kind of like that. Unless you're cool, I'll make some space for some chill dudes.
100%. Actually, it's weird when you do like have a connection, like anything past 30. If you become friends with someone past 30, it's crazy. You're like, I never saw that coming. You know what I mean? Where you're like,
yeah, Nate, I've known you for 20 years or however long.
Yeah, longer.
I got to tell this story before I forget it, but kind of going back to like, just meeting people along the way and having a good impact on them. I don't know if you remember this, Nate, but we played this festival and I was in my many transitions through different bands. I mean, I've probably played, I don't know how many bands I've played for, before even the Manchester thing happened. And I was out in LA playing with this band called Brobex, and killer band, really, with all bunch of awesome musicians who have all gone on to do cool stuff. And we were just young, grinding it out, trying to figure some stuff out. And it was another band where I'd kind of come in, into a band that was already going. And we played at the Great Salt. What's the Great Saltaire? What's that venue out in Utah, out in the middle of nowhere?
In Utah.
They put up.
That venue was.
It was so wild. It's such a weird place, and I've been there a variety of different times with different outfits, but this was the wildest setup because it was a radio fest. Hoobastank was headlining.
Dude, I remember this.
You guys were on it, and they shoved like 9 bands onto this thing, and it was like, especially the openers. It was like, you get to play 7.5 minutes, and then get your shit off the
No
stage
soundtrack
immediately
at noon.
Like we're very opening band, very young still, and so all my gear is just thrashed from playing these tiny club shows for years, and I have this crash cymbal that has just got a gash in it, that deep. It's going right up the cymbal. Thing sounds like trash now. And we're in the middle of our set, dude, and I hit this cymbal. I don't have cymbal tops on either for some reason. And this thing is like pouring, and a piece of metal, just a chunk, a pizza pie slice out of this cymbal goes flying off. And I don't know how you saw it or where you were, Nate, that you actually... But your drums were on stage ready to go on the riser, and you walked over in the middle of the set, grabbed a cymbal right off of your crash stand, flipped around like drum tech quick to bow right on the cymbal stand, like in between hits, basically.
Hell yeah.
And he didn't have to throw his cymbal up there for an opening band. That, like, it's not like we broke down or hung out or anything. You just did it out of the kindness of your heart, and just like hating to see a drummer up there suffering with like a trash can lid,
Yeah.
So you're like, I can't listen to this. I'm gonna go put my cymbal on there. But dude, it was such a cool move, and you did that.
Yeah, that's sweet.
I mean, a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was just so. But I think those kind of things, you don't remember those acts of kindness, but they go a long way. And and it's a testament to like how people see you, what they think about you, like what your impact has been on other people over the years. And like all of these dudes in here, I feel like we want to be that kind of dude where it's like,
Yeah, definitely.
it's not as important to be known as like
100%.
the best drummer in the world, with the biggest. It's more about like, do people enjoy being around me?
100%.
I think that
That's
kind of
awesome.
stuff also comes with the season
Yes.
playing too, because it's like when I was young, I would never run out and push a kick mic back into a kick if I see it swinging out.
Dude, I couldn't afford to put my cymbol, I'd be like, this thing costs $250. I'm not putting it on this dude's stand,
Right.
It's funny because I do remember that show so well because you're like, dude, Hoobastank. So
Hoobastank, sick. Yeah, man.
That's awesome. No, yeah, it's funny. It's like, yeah. Oh wait, do other people have to tell their bad show stories?
Yeah,
I feel like
we do need a couple. Anybody got a barfing drumming story?
I mean,
It's not going to top yours.
Yeah, it's not going to top both of yours.
We want to hear them, though.
It's still a bad story.
We want to hear them.
Well, I'll talk about one recently on the Pink tour. We were in Nashville, and of course,
Nashville again. There it is.
Nashville, dude.
Of course, the thing, like, you're in a city which is full of musicians, and you're like, I have to get up here and not embarrass myself in front of literally every drummer.
Nashville does have that pressure, doesn't it?
It does.
It really does.
There's
It's
child
also
guys
there's just
walking
something
around.
voodoo about the city.
Yes.
though.
I got on stage, first song in, like 5 seconds in, drop a stick. Like really bad, like a bad point of the song to drop. Not
like a smooth. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, not
I
a
love
smooth.
those.
Yeah,
Those are fun.
And dude, if I tell you, I was just like, it just sank. My heart just was like, oh my God. Like, because the worst part is I in the moment didn't have another stick around. So it was one of those
looking around.
No, it was looking around for the one I dropped. So like if you saw, like, I'm talking, this is like a tour where there's giant screens and like cameras and also this shit, and all you see is this.
Just
like
just lost his mind.
And like,
With
I'm like,
one arm still wailing on a crash. And
well, were you still on the kick or anything?
Yeah. I mean, I tried my best. I should have stopped because it probably would have sounded better. But I just eventually got it, and it was one of those points where, like, it's a fast song, so no matter what, it just sounds bad.
Yeah.
So
I tried my best.
And the worst part was my friend, a good friend of mine, was there, and I was like, maybe nobody noticed. No, he texted me after. He's like, man, and I was like, damn it. And
rough way to start.
The first thing, yeah. And I was like, damn, dude. I was like, if this dude noticed, I was like, the entire crowd. I'm like, I can't play here ever again. I can't. My face cannot be seen in Nashville ever again. But
those kind of mistakes, like the stick drops and stuff, hurt worse if you don't do them that often. It just like
it's truly, without being like, everyone's broken sticks drops. I have not dropped a stick in a long time.
You're done for.
Long time.
Next show.
So this weekend, no, I just had a show on Saturday, and the riser was shaky as hell. And dude, I could not find the rhythm. My hi-hat was just like vibing out here somewhere
by itself.
And it was that Pearl kit. So like, it's tilts a little funny. So I was just ripping, and it was the type of stick drop where it wasn't like, oh, I dropped it, let me grab another one. I was like, something got caught, and then it was like, see ya, like full on, like just flung. And then I did the same thing. I went to grab one. I was like, not one there. I went to grab it over here. I was like, that doesn't work. So I have my stick bag, so I got one. But that was the first time I dropped a stick in forever. And I thought that, I was like, well, I got it out of the way. Maybe it'll be another couple years till like I drop another one.
It definitely seems like the when it rains it pours concept happens with drumming, where it's like,
well,
why does
it
it all
was
happen?
the moving, not to like make excuses, but that everyone's played on those type of risers.
Oh, right.
It's almost impossible to settle in because, especially if you're like getting into it, you move and everything just shakes. And
it's not fun.
It's like backwards. Like when you like headbang or even like get into it, it's like coming back the other way.
Yeah.
Yes.
I learned a long time ago when they're setting up the riser, like earlier in the day, to make sure that the seam is running away from me and not horizontally across, because I've had them separate.
Smart.
And things kind of start sinking. It's like Tom Hanks in the Money Pit where he like goes into the floor and
he's stuck with his arms.
All right. So mine, I have plenty of instances of dropping a stick or messing up. So I'm not going to go there because it doesn't top you guys. But there was one instance I remember with a guest attending that totally psyched me out during the show. So this girl I knew was in town when I was playing and wanted to come to the show. She hit me up and she was going to bring other friends. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll get you in plus like a couple guests. And she wanted to meet before to grab a drink, catch up. I show up and it was the classic by herself move. Friends weren't able to make it.
Were you married at this point?
No, this was before Kelly.
Starting to sweat.
It's already awkward off the bat because I show up and just thrown off with it just being her. Yeah. So we proceed to catch up, hang out. She tries to make a move on me.
Whoa! This is awesome.
I declined and awkwardly had to basically leave and then go into the venue. And she followed me. Like we went together.
What is happening?
And I told, like in the middle of us catching up, I texted our TM, Matt Wilson, to basically say, hey man, like make sure she does not have any passes, because I couldn't remember like what kind of access she was given.
This went south.
Way
dude.
south.
This is-
And so
Sick on the TM on her. Oh
Yeah,
man.
dude.
I don't know you.
Away.
that's what I should have done. We get to will call. She hands him her driver's license. She gets the tickets, and she pulls out of the envelope pass. She's
Pass.
like, "What's this?" And I was just like, my face just probably looked white as a ghost. I was just like, oh, I was like, she's like, does that mean I can go back with you? I was like, yeah, I guess so.
Yes.
So of course this just gets worse and worse.
she's like, what? She's like, why is there a picture of me on the wall backstage?
It says do not
Says,
enter.
do not.
So we get back there and she starts drinking, and a lot.
Oh man.
As you do.
And gets very drunk. And by the time we're actually getting ready to start playing, everybody already knows that this is just a bad situation.
Powder keg.
And so we get to the huddle up before we get on stage, and Fred Mascherino was,
She's in it.
well,
She's leading it.
All right, listen up, team.
Gather around.
Get in here, everybody.
We're all gonna take a shot.
I'm not even kidding, guys. Basically, we huddle up. Fred Mascherino was kind of getting us all to gather around. He was playing with us at the time, and she jumps right in the middle and goes, "Put him here!" Like, yes. And Fred looks at her and he goes, "No, you got to go." Like, basically, just like looked at her.
Oh, this is a private moment.
Dude.
And so she disappears, though. I guess she was very bummed. She got the message at that point. And so I thought she was gone. I thought she was at least escorted out to like the main like room, and we were all good. But I start playing though, and I'm already just mentally thrown off at that point. Very annoyed by the situation. And I look over and she is side stage, just going nuts, and can barely stand on her 2 feet without like stumbling over stuff. And I'm just literally like closing my eyes, just praying for it to like just stop. Like I just was trying to.
She's wearing your blanket from your bunk. It's like over like
Yeah.
a shawl.
Close my eyes and count to 10. She'll disappear.
Oh man! And so basically, I'm trying to tell our monitor tech to get her off the stage. Like I was just like, she has to go, and pretty much it all ends with her climbing on top of the road cases on the side stage and just falls
Dude,
over. Like everything
so
just,
dangerous.
just collapses.
This is how bands get sued.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm watching all this while I'm playing,
Dude,
by the way.
you have the best story.
I was about to say, read.
That was it. And then she literally gets escorted out, and I never saw her again.
Yeah, that's-
ever since.
Ever again.
No, never again.
So she's gonna hear this.
I at least made sure she like got home okay, but after that it was pretty much like, yeah.
Sounds like she might not remember half of that stuff.
Yeah, I don't think so.
She's going to listen to this podcast and be like, man, that girl sounds wild.
Yeah,
Who is that?
So that's my story. That's the story.
That's a great story.
That is a great
on this
story.
though, do you guys have any, or maybe Tim, you could start since you're our actual guest and you should be talking more. Do you have any guest list stories that
Guest list stories, like nightmare guest lists or things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Or the other, has anybody crazy reached out and been like, I want to come to the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess our reach isn't that deep. We need some cooler backstage
feel like-
people, you know.
I don't know. I feel like y'all transfer. Like, I feel like a lot of, I don't know. Like, don't y'all know like the Kings of Leon dudes and stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
sick.
Are they like celebrity status now?
I mean, I don't know. In my brain, I'm like, that's a big, cool,
For
rad
sure.
band that would never hit my band up. So I'm like, that's already sick.
Tim, wasn't there a point where Frankie Muniz was like a huge Manchester
Yes.
fan and he came and stuff?
Yeah.
That's
he's
I remember
cool.
That
Weirdly, we've been getting a lot of skateboarder love due to
that's
Prince,
cool.
which is kinda
Oh, that's cool.
If we go out to like San Diego and the West Coast, we'll have like 10 dudes come out from all
Like
all
pro
the different
skaters?
teams. Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
so
That's really cool.
That's been kind of cool. Man, I'm trying to think. Funny enough, the weirdest one was another band back in the day, but it was Aaron Rodgers before he got huge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And he came out to a show, and it was just weird seeing this because it was a small show. There's probably like 300 people there, and then a pro footballer standing in the middle way bigger than everybody else.
Yeah.
Obviously it's him,
Does not blend in.
and everybody's obviously aware he's in the room, and suddenly like no one really even cares about the show. They're all just kind of like looking over at this guy. So but I'm trying to think. Yeah, nothing. Nobody like, I don't know, Paris Jackson comes and hangs out with us sometimes,
Oh, that's sick. Damn.
She's but I've also realized that I've gotten old, dudes, and I'm not.
You don't know him. You don't know who.
I don't know anybody cool
Yeah.
anymore, and I don't
Care.
necessarily care that much. Like I'd rather hang out with you guys and have a good coffee or a beer, But if someone cool makes their way backstage, I'm down to hang. You just got to find your way back there.
Tim, we can cut this one out, but can you tell the story about the one time you got summoned by Travis Barker?
Yes.
Why do we have to cut it out?
It's a great story.
Yeah, you don't really have to. But also it's a great regret of mine. And it's sometimes like when life offers you, an opportunity, you gotta seize it. I think I was trying to do the right thing because I would have been holding up like 100 people's job. But Travis offered, we went on way back in the day, we went on the Honda Civic tour. Man, what a tour. It was Blink-182 and My Chem and us. I'm like,
Dude.
man, can we get that back again? I mean,
we turned down one that was Paramore and Tegan and Sarah, and that was one of my biggest.
Dude, that's a fatty. You guys should have went.
Yeah, we were idiots. We're going to headline.
Yeah. Also, don't make bad career decisions, guys.
Yep, sorry.
We should have stayed on that whole tour. It's a great regret of ours. But Travis, after a few weeks of being out there, we kind of started to get friendly with the guys, and Travis was really cool, especially back then. I kind of met him because I busted my hand on a bike. We brought bikes out with us, and I was trying to be cool, doing this jump off of something, and the wheel just came off, scraped my hand all up, and his security guard saw it and was like, Travis uses this stuff called liquid bandage because he busts his fingers up all the time. And he was like, I'm going to go ask him if I can get a bottle of his liquid bandage for you. And that kind of opened the door. So Travis was like, bring him back here. And then security guard comes and gets me. He's like, Travis wants to see you. And I was like,
bring him back. I'm going to apply it myself.
I was like, wait, like go back like in his room?
Yeah, he wants to put it on for you.
Yeah, Travis is going to glue you up. So we hung for a couple minutes, that being my entryway into his room. And he was like, man, if you want to ride, at that time he had, I guess he always has some crazy contraption, but he had this riser that went up in the air and like, tilts forward. And so I made a joke and he was like, if you want to strap into that thing and ride it one day, you can do it. And I was like, what? And I really wish that I had the ego at the time to just be like, yeah, all you guys setting up Blink stage, hold on a sec. I'm going to get in this thing. Yeah. He let his kid do it one day, which was funny. Yeah, I want to go on the spin and like hit his 808 pedal down there. That's like, Travis.
You get on there and start spinning. You start puking up tomato soup.
For real. Just pink.
Yeah, I mean, as a listener, I want you to say yes to actually have you experience it, but I would feel the same way if I was in your shoes. I would do it.
Everyone else would have been like, why are we standing here watching this idiot? Like we already have to do this every night with Travis. Do we want to see the less good version?
Your hands are up like a roller coaster.
Yeah, but I should have done it, right?
You should have.
Yeah,
you should have.
Yeah.
It's fully offered it.
All those guys that were working hard that day, right? I mean, screw those crew hands, I need to ride that thing.
Did you see Blink on this tour?
I have not. I saw, I have a bunch of friends that went out, and it was interesting with Blink. I don't want this to sound disparaging, but we were just surprised that like when you're in front of Blink, in front of the PA, what you're hearing coming through those speakers, and then when you're behind Blink, listening to them, from on the other side of the stage, you're like, this doesn't sound the same at all. Yeah. There's a lot of like, I don't see a piano player on
There's
stage.
A lot of processing happening. Yeah.
But it's cool, man. I mean, they are an institution. So what are you going to say? I mean, it's Blink-182. If they hit us up right now, I'd be like, yes, it'd be cool.
I've never met any of them, but they also seem like, for how fucking rocket ship big they are, that they don't.
Their egos are actually pretty cool.
Come across personally like they're rocket ship big, because you hear a story like the bands from that era are generally like regarded as assholes, and they just don't seem like they are,
They all got their own like compound. They were basically like, they had the touring party of like, you know, Travis had his own backstage area, his own bus and all of that stuff. And I think it must be awesome, right? Just be separated from your other band members on your own stuff. Like, no wonder why they're in such good moods, right?
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm just playing, guys. Just playing. But, you know, it's a different, what they're doing is a little bit different than I feel like, you know, what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. Wait, going back to when you first started playing with Manchester, obviously you meshed with those guys, you'd known them for some time, but how was it actually like transitioning into being the new Manchester Orchestra drummer?
It was awesome. I am thankful that I had the history and the time in with Andy, where I'd done some touring, like light touring, a couple weeks and stuff, way back when he was just starting the band up, and so I felt like there was connectivity there. But it was also definitely an interesting thing because there was other drummers around. Ben was playing with him at the time. Len Clark from Color Revolt, who is, you know, one of our favorite drummers of all time, was basically like wrapping up his touring stint with the band. And so it was definitely one of those things where it's like running backs. When there's other running backs around, the guy who gets the job runs harder because he knows there's two other dudes around that can both do it very well. And so there was definitely a point where I was like, I need to like elevate my game. And when I knew that I was living in Oregon at the time when, so they were going to go out with Thrice and that tour got canceled. And it was like, all right, we're going to transition into writing right away. And they hit me up and were like, do you want to come out and do some writing? And I was like, I never woodshedded so hard in my life. And,
Yeah.
you know, I went on, you know, this was like before YouTube had really gotten slick with all the drummer stuff too. Like nowadays, man, it's just different, right, guys? Like when you were a drummer coming up, when you were like 13, you had to like dig out those gems.
Yeah,
you had to go find that
VHS
Tony Royster
tapes and
video.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. You had to go like get the Dave Weckl thing.
I honestly, if you didn't grow up in a town that had a good shop,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
even a place to
music
go,
store.
like
Yeah.
how did you even find that shit? Because like
Yeah.
if there wasn't a music store that had a drum,
Another
kit
musician had to show you, right? Another
Yeah.
guy that
Yeah.
you looked up to had to
100%.
be like, have you seen
This.
Dennis Chambers do this?
Yep. Right.
And you're like,
100%.
and then you go watch it and you're like, want to throw up and be like, I'll
Yeah.
never, ever be able to do
I'll
that
never
on a
get
drum
there.
set.
Yeah. God,
I still
so
can't do
true.
that stuff, right?
Yeah,
Like,
no. I do think I maybe I'm the odd one out here, but I never like, to me, the drummers in the bands I was listening to were the ones that I didn't learn about, you know, Dennis Chambers and all that stuff until a lot later. Like I'm like, you know, listening to, you know, Rancid and NoFX and MXPX and all that stuff. And those guys were
Were the
Dennis
drummers.
Chambers.
yeah.
So I never like, and it's because I grew up in an area that didn't have access to any of that stuff. So
Yeah. I feel like I'm more of like a songwriter's drummer kind of guy
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
You know,
Same
like that's
here.
what I like to listen to. I like to hear drummers that have that kind of impact on the song, as opposed to like, you know, it is really cool when you see these guys do stuff that's like superhuman, but there's a fine line and it comes up very quickly where it's just like, dude, you are absolutely, whatever the adjective you want to use, all over this song. You are ruining like the chemistry of this song by adding way too much of this thing. And I used to do that like crazy, you know, as a young drummer myself. But even back then I was like, I want to write something that if I took this song into the studio and track this with the band, I could look back 10 years from now and be really proud of this drum part that I came up with. Not proud of like the machine gun drum fill that I came up with for like, I mean, and that stuff's fun too. I like doing that kind of stuff too when I can. Maybe I just don't have it like some of these other guys do. But to me, it's just always been like the fine dining aspect of drumming is
100%.
only bringing what that song really actually needs, not what you want to like inject into it to get your, you know, your kicks or whatever. And it takes a little while, I think, of being in a band for a little while and beating some of those tendencies out of yourself, and then you kind of start going, all right, I want to be like
Tasteful.
I want to be a pro.
Yeah.
well, I think even the, you know, the rhythm section is the whether we like it or not should take a back seat, I guess, to the top line stuff that's happening. But also, like, if the drums and the bass are off or aren't solid, or if they're distracting, the whole thing is ruined, you know.
Well, maybe we're running out of time. It's a bigger conversation, but I've thought about that so much within drummers. There's so many different variables of like what drummers think is a good drummer and what a normal listener thinks is a cool drummer, and what are those things. And so it's so big.
Yeah. I just want to like add to it. Do you guys, even more importantly, like figuring out whatever your singer and your songwriter is trying to like convey to you when he's showing you this idea, and he's like, I don't know if your singers do this, but he'll be like, can you do something that's like back-a-da, back-a-da, book-a-da, book-a-da, back-a-da, back-a-da, book-a-da, book-a-da. And you have to sit there and be like, I got to translate that into like drummer language. But it's very important to like figure out the language that like the other musicians in your band, the way that their brains tick and actually work, so you can get down to the brass tacks a little bit quicker, you know?
I feel like the last couple of albums of yours, there's the way the rhythm section's laid out, it just seems like there's so much space for it. You and Andy are locked in. I was wondering, like, what is your writing process? Because in some ways it feels like certain songs, it's like you and Andy wrote it starting out, or at least put the base of it together, and then the rest of the band built on top of that. But I just was curious of what your actual process is with the rest of the band.
Yeah, it's kind of different. It can be different from song to song. You know, firstly, you know, I have to say I am blessed to play in a band with a dude that I seriously think Andy Prince is maybe the best bass player of all time.
Dude,
I mean, he's just
another good vibe too.
What he is as a package, as a person. Yeah, he's like so talented, but just a really, really great guy. And so we love him.
Solid bass players make all of us sound better than.
Yeah, but he's like, well, he's just rare. A guy that can
shred.
And he runs around the stage like a wild man. It's effortless for him because he's played so many shows and so many bar gigs.
Well, Tim, I've had a chance to play with him too, and I think it translates too. It's very easy to play with him. Because he's also listening too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he makes it sound. And so in that way of writing now, after however many records it's been, and the time that we have in with each other, that's the best thing I think about continuing on with our bands. Is we can get to what we're trying to do seemingly faster. I mean, you don't want to just squirt something out and be like, that's good, you know, but at the same time, after years of playing together, like me and Prince are listening to what each other are doing, and we're trying to get right to that level of like rhythm section production right away, you know, like as soon as we get in the room. It's very important to us that when we get into the room, that the communication and the flow of energy in the room never stops while we're writing that day. Right. Don't come up with some stupid idea that slows down the process of the song being written. Like, we should try this like bogus, you know, Hail Mary thing. It's like, no, we shouldn't. We should like stay very, very focused on what this song needs right now. And I've just found like, man, we did this thing where we played all our new songs. It was crazy. I don't know why we did it, but we booked a show down at the Earl, and we took all this new material that we have that wasn't even really finished yet. And it's just kind of a way to up the ante on ourselves and like make it scary and up the pressure. High stakes poker. Just go up there, 10 new songs, and Andy played one solo one. And like the day before the show, we were still figuring out like, how are we going to do this bridge?
Oof.
Stuff like that. But
wait, so you haven't recorded these songs yet?
No,
like they're new. Oh,
new. Like we have just written them. So we're like, we want to before we go in the record, because we always go in the studio, track the record, then we come out, start playing it live, and the songs go through this metamorphosis of like power injection. You know,
this doesn't feel right. We should change this. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Let's click this thing. And even those
there's so many songs that we play now that we changed.
Oh yeah, and so much room for the rhythm section to be like, man, there's so many things that me and Prince do now that aren't on records that like if we went back and re-recorded them, for sure they'd make the cut, you know.
There's also stuff that's right for the record, but it
100%,
or vice versa. There's stuff 100%. You do live that sounds bad.
Yeah.
Also makes the show more unique too.
Absolutely. And fans love that. Fans, I've realized when they see that the band's doing like sometimes we'll just slow a section down like crazy, like just, you know, hit the molasses, like go from like 20 BPM down. People love it when they feel that. Like at the end of Pride, we do that. And it's like, man, people love when they just hear like, oh, they did something
They're
clever,
changing it.
you know?
Well, and to your earlier point, some of those people haven't seen you before, so it feels to them spontaneous, even though it's
For sure.
planned.
Yeah.
It feels like they're seeing a special thing that.
Yeah, and for the old fans, it's nice for them to see like, hey, the band is like still tightening things up and they're still making their adjustments.
Keeping it
and
fresh.
stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess to just wrap up the Manchester writing thing, you know, it's like a team when you've been playing together for a long time. I feel like we've gotten more in sync, and I'm thankful for that because you know, at least like we just went and worked really hard on the new album and went away for 3 weeks, and it felt less like pulling teeth than it ever has to get in there and get the drum sounds, get the performances, and then even get some of the like bells and whistles and cool stuff that like as drummers, I feel like a lot of times the mentality when we go into the studio, everyone's like, hurry up, get your crap out of the way so we can get to this important.
You have 2 days to get all this done so we can focus on the important.
Hurry up and get out of the way, you know, like crank it out. Who cares what the snare sounds like? We're just going to cover it up.
We're going to replace it.
Yeah. And it's like, it was less like that. It was like drums were very important this time. There was no like, you know, tapping the watch going like, hurry up and get this done. If anything, I was kind of pushing the pace for myself because I also just want to be effective and proficient in there. But I felt like the structures of the songs were in a better place than they've ever been going into the studio. So there was way less like pre-production vibes going on. And it was a lot more like, give me a good take. And really it's been funny, but we've developed this system. I highly suggest you guys try it too. Call them nut takes. And it's basically like, because Prince came up, I don't know why, when and where he started calling me nut along the way, but he calls me T-nut, nut, all these kind of like nut versions. And so that developed into a nut take. And it was basically get 4 or 5 passes of the song, like exactly like it should be. No extra bells and whistles, just get the good stuff. You know, even the fills, keep them like as solid and as simple as you possible. Then they let me go in for the nut takes afterwards.
You just go,
and
if something
go
shakes
nuts,
loose.
dude.
Yeah.
Just shake. You get
That's cool.
any weird thing in the back of your brain. Try it. Next pass.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, something like always comes from one of those takes, or somebody's like,
there's always like one sick fill that you can fly in, or whatever.
I'm like, I can't actually do that.
Right. Now I have to go.
Don't put that on the song. You know.
Yeah. Before we go, last question: What's in your inner mix? Give us a rundown of what you get in your ears. Yeah.
Dudes, do you guys like feel like yours changes every night? Because that's kind of like,
yeah.
I feel like I'm just chasing this unicorn of a mix that was really good one time. I've started using one of the butt kickers.
Oh yeah,
my
we were
Porter
talking
and
about that.
Davies.
Porter and Davies.
So
They're
that's
the best.
That changes the game because
Damn.
once all that sub's coming right up through the old arsehole, like you don't need to hear it in the ears.
Oh, dude, I need to
much.
get one.
Dude, it's like sitting on a. It's like
Honestly,
sitting on
Nate,
it's like sitting on a subwoofer.
You should definitely have one of these.
I mean, I just played a show this last weekend and I had no sub, and it's almost impossible to feel it. You know what I mean? It's like-
Tim, when you don't have it, do you notice? I notice it's like I actually sort of my show is not that great like now because I don't have that.
Yeah, I think it definitely weirdly kind of makes your kicking more consistent too because you're feeling it. You're not just like hoping that it sounds good, looking down at your foot. You're actually feeling it come through your body. And so if you don't make like that clean contact with the head or just little bounce offs and stuff, you'll hear it in your monitors and you're like, ooh, I need to clean that up, you know?
At one point I had my entire mix going through it and I eventually blew the speaker because it was so loud, but I even had like vocals going through it and it was pretty weird.
That's the dangerous. That's the other side that's dangerous is like if your mix suddenly isn't good anymore and you've been used to having, because that's kind of, you know, we played that show out in the UK. Ben just had to fill in for me. I blew my shoulder out because we went from having all of our crew, all of our gear to flying out there and suddenly playing with like sound reduced hi-hats and no sub and some new monitor guy that has no idea. And before you know it, you're like, I can't even hear what's going on.
And then you're overcompensating.
Like crazy. And so you just, the ear mix thing is you definitely want to have a guy you can rely on. That's for sure.
How's the shoulder now?
Shoulder's doing better. still not 100, dude. I woke up this morning and was like, I can feel this. We're going out for a show this weekend. So, Ben, I'm going to have to call you, dude. I'm just playing. I'm playing. Whatever happens, happens.
Did you tear something?
I did,
you
for
know
sure.
what you actually did?
I tore something up in here, right up in here. And for a while, even just lifting my arm or doing a full rotation was extremely painful. But still, when I wake up in the morning, it's just like whatever's in there is stiff still. So
You need to find a witch doctor.
if I'm going to make it to my like mid 50s doing these kinds of shows, I'm going to have to like treat my body better.
Yeah.
So.
Word.
But everything's good. Thank you,
Oh
gentlemen.
yeah, dude. Thank you so much, man.
This is fun,
Thank
man.
you.
Thank
man.
you.
We'll see you next time.